everyone, and welcome to another episode of Reap the Spoils. I'm Mark Sullivan.
I'm Delilah Lugo.
And I'm Jason Kwasnicki.
Delilah, what are we talking about?
The season finale of The Last of Us HBO season 2.
We're ending it. We're ending things.
Yes, thank goodness.
Mostly because they did, but you know.
Yeah, and the question now is, will HBO end things?
Well, the show was already renewed for a third season. It was renewed for a third season prior to the second
So
season.
was Wheel of
airing.
Time and Rings of Power, and as we saw today, that doesn't mean much.
Wait, what did we see today?
Wheel of Time got axed.
No way, really?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't watch that show.
and it
but-
looks like Rings of Power will too. Thank God. Mercy kills.
Mm.
I mean, I don't watch either of those shows, so I don't know. But
The point being is that just because a network says they're renewing something doesn't mean that's the end of it.
well, I would think it's getting at least one more season, and we'll talk about that. But besides spoiling the news about Wheel of Time and Rings of Power, Reap the Spoils is a semi-monthly spoiler cast where we usually play a video game. In this case, we watched a television show that is adapting a video game, and we are here to spoil it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about the season finale of season 2 of HBO's The Last of Us. That episode is titled Convergence. We're also, going to talk about the whole season kind of as we're wrapping things up with this series. And the series of Reap the Spoils episodes, not the series of like the show, as we just kind of discussed. And we will also be spoiling The Last of Us Part 2, the video game, at least up until the point that this show ended, which I think we can get somewhat broad about, at least in certain aspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the show has now essentially confirmed the back half of the not like all the events, but what the back half of the game is. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and we'll talk about that. So that all being said, if you have not watched The Last of Us season 2 on HBO Max, whatever you want to call it, it hasn't reverted back to HBO Max yet, but it will. It will. If you haven't watched that, please pause this episode and go watch that stuff and then come back and listen to us spoil it. Or, if you want to just let us spoil it for you, I'm not your dad. I'm not your mom. I can't tell you what to do. So, yeah, if that's what you want to do, that's your choice. And also, if you're a returning Reap the Spoils listener, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. If you're a new listener, please consider rating and reviewing the show or liking and subscribing on YouTube. Whatever you're listening on, give us the props, please.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Helps. It helps a lot. That all being said, are you guys ready to talk about The Last of Us season 2's finale and the season as a whole? You guys ready for that?
Yeah.
I know Jason is so pumped. He's so ready.
Yep.
He's so excited. He's got a big old grin on his face. He's got party poppers. He's got fireworks in the back. You're in New York, buddy. You really gonna fire those off in the city? Man.
Oh, dude, people fire off crackers and actual fireworks full on in my neighborhood all the time.
Oh, okay.
Even when it's not a holiday.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even when it's not a holiday. Oh, I don't know. Those fireworks. You sure those aren't something else making loud noises?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
no.
can tell the difference.
Okay. Anyway, Convergence. What did we think of this season finale?
So when I played the game and I got to the point where you have to play as Abby, I was kind of pissed off because, oh my gosh, you got a whole new upgrade system and a new character to play as and get to know, and she fights a little differently than Ellie.
It was really weird when I finished the episode and Max forced me to like upgrade my subscription to their service. It's strange. Wasn't expecting that.
And I was pretty like upset at the events that happened to Joel, and I just didn't want to play as this character. So I was pissed off about that now that we're ending the season and we're no longer following Ellie's story and now we're following Abby's story, I'm actually like, wait a minute. Season 3 might actually be all right. Because Caitlin never is doing her thing as Abby, and even the very few, moments she's had in season 2, I've quite enjoyed watching her on screen. So it's kind of a weird ironic situation to be in, feeling exactly the opposite, that I'm so glad this season's over and I don't have to see Ellie anymore as much. And now we're just gonna see like Abby and her people.
Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
I still have all of the same critiques of the game that I have here, except despite a few glimmers of hope, a few tiny spots, which I did give credit in our talks about the first few episodes, this show ended up being so much worse. I can't believe I'm saying this, but if I had to choose, I would choose to watch the game's cutscenes rather than this television show.
Yeah.
Well, what makes you say that? Like, let's dig into that a little bit. At least as terms of this episode.
In terms of this episode, let me put it to you this way. There was some good in this episode, and that good was Jesse putting Ellie in her rightful fucking place.
I was like, finally, somebody
Yeah, like
told
that
this
was
bitch who she
the
is.
best part almost of this entire series was Jesse talking shit to Ellie, and rightful shit, deserved shit, and putting her in her place, because in this depiction, he's essentially their fucking babysitter.
Yeah.
Which makes it all the more tragic that his end is. I always thought Jesse's death was like very abrupt, and I kind of liked that, even though I liked him as a character even in the game, even though he was so less present in the game. And here, yeah, he's a much more fleshed out character. He's a lot more involved, and yeah, him telling Ellie off, not as aggressively um excited about it as you are, Jason. I still thought it was a really good scene, and what he was saying made a lot of sense. But it's I like how abrupt his death is, despite really liking the character, because it just feels like a I don't know how to put this the way I'm trying to convey it. Like,
A
it's
realistic way for someone to go out.
yeah, it's almost like a tragic reflection of life, or something poetic along those lines. It's like he was such a good character, morally good character, and that's even kind of like talked about in their dialogue, where he's kind of telling Ellie off, despite the fact that he does let well, arguably innocent person die in this episode. Like, he had his reasons for it, and he
Good
explained those
reasons for it.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is a member of a community, and his priority is that community.
Oh my god, he behaved as if it was the post-apocalypse.
He put
Look what happens when the characters actually behave like they live in the post-apocalypse.
He put the community's needs ahead of his own. He talked about that. He talks about that girl that passed through, and like he was like in love with her, but like he couldn't just leave, even no matter how badly he wanted to, because the community he owed too much to his community. Which I think is it's a flawed, but it is a powerful message, I think.
Yeah, it's
And
also just a quick thing to add. They added, like, this wasn't in the game, but he was supposed to be like the successor to um
Maria,
what's her name? Maria, yeah, which I don't think that was in the game. I don't remember it, at
No.
least.
I don't
But
think so. Yeah.
you like, that's pretty important, right?
I mean, that also goes hand in hand with like the some other new additions with this season versus the game, like the fact that Jackson does have like a city, like a town council, a city council. They make
Right. Maria basically
decisions based
called the
on a
shots. Like, she was basically the autocrat of Not to say it in a negative way, but in the game, she's basically the queen.
Well, I feel like we don't know enough about Jackson culture to really say one way or the other, but the show makes it very clear what kind of governing body is in charge of Jackson, and it is there.
Yeah.
It is like a senate, right? It's not just one person calling all of the shots. I feel like the game doesn't really go too far for us to know one way or the other
Yeah,
how
it's not
they.
really important in the game,
Yeah, it's
but
not.
it's kind of just implied that it's Maria's decision.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the tragedy of Jesse is definitely a lot better, I'd say, in this show, in this season, versus the game, just because we get more screen time with him and he becomes a more fleshed out character as a result of it.
Yeah, and he had some of the best lines, like Jason said. That moment where he, told Ellie off was like,
Yeah.
me and my partner looked at each other like, yes, finally somebody told her what she
He's
needed to
basically
hear.
talking on behalf of the audience.
Yes, he's
I
saying
I
what we all wanted to say.
I guess you could make that argument, sure.
Uh,
Um,
I guess I get where you guys are coming from, saying it made his death better. I would disagree to the extent that I wanted an actual some sort of arc or point to him before he got killed off like that. If he got if there's any change to make, the way that Dina and Jesse were utilized are the changes to make. And I was actually um surprised that they just did him the same way. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but I would have actually kept him around because he's a character that is built up to actually serve a purpose in the greater story, and he's actually likable.
yeah,
Yep.
but they have to show you how much Ellie sucks. So,
Basically, yeah.
I
yeah,
and the kind of the pinnacle of that whole confrontation too being that he voted against going after um going for
go,
revenge.
yeah,
Right.
to the wolves. Yeah,
I really liked that.
yeah, that was good. The only thing, again, and this is my problem with pretty much the whole season, is it's just confusing, not just tonally, but in terms of like character motivation. So like Ellie was willing to help this like stranger, but like she wasn't willing to help Tommy, and I get it, she's like blinded by revenge, but the way they're depicting Ellie in this version is almost as if she's kind of like sympathetic and doubting her revenge, and so she keeps flip-flopping, and
It's
that
Yes.
flip-flopping
inconsistent.
just
You're
it's so
not the first
inconsistent.
person to point this out. I've seen like 3 or 4 different videos across media YouTube, social
Well,
media
I
pop
mean,
up
we've
about
been
this same point that is very bipolar in the way they depict Ellie. And
we've been
yeah,
talking about it this whole season. We've been talking about it the past 3 episodes of the show, in that she doesn't seem that committed to it. And this episode she seems super committed to it. I guess following the torture of Nora, like I guess that shook her enough that it made her really committed to the bit. Um, Another moment that I actually really liked that I feel it didn't really pay off much in the end, uh, was her talking to Dina, and telling Dina like what Joel did, because I guess Dina didn't know, which makes sense. I don't She
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't, unless Ellie told her, which she wouldn't tell her until this moment. Like, she didn't know, and that I feel kind of it was a big tonal shift in Dina of like we got to give this up. Like almost a sense
Let's
that
go
they were
home.
both, yeah, like almost like they both doubted that these people actually deserved the revenge that Ellie and Dina were bringing, you know? Realize like the conversation to me seemed like they were both kind of sympathizing with why Abby and her crew did what they did,
Mhm.
and recognizing that, yeah, Joel, we might miss him, we might love him, but he got what was coming. It almost seemed like that until the next day. It didn't. It wasn't that. It was,
Uh,
we got to go
and
get
yeah,
Tommy, and then
I think
Ellie still
that's
wanted to get revenge.
I think Neil Druckmann just really wants to double down that what Joel did was wrong, which most people don't agree with.
And like to even answer that question definitively is the crux of the issue, right?
Impossible because it depends on your worldview. Yes.
And not only that, but I mean, we've talked about this, you know, and how many episodes of this show when it comes to The Last of Us. This is like our 7th episode on this fucking
Yeah.
franchise. Um, it there is no answer to is what Joel did is what Joel did, was it moral, was it just, you know? There's no answer to that because it does depend, and there never should have been an answer to that. There never
Yeah.
should have been a continuation of that story. It should have stood alone. Um,
Right.
but we live in a world where we did get a continuation, so that's why we have to sit here and talk about
And
it.
now we're getting a show that's kind of like pushing you towards a direction further than the game, both games ever did, which really doesn't sit right with me because I feel like that sort of moral ambiguity and you as the player being able to decide, you know, how you feel about certain events of the game is what made the game special to me, in my opinion. And this
Mhm.
show is kind of like, it's just not, it's bad.
Neil Druckmann very clearly wants to double down on he was right about it.
Which is a shame because he's at least in part the reason why we got such an interesting question over a decade ago, you know?
Mhm.
And for him to pose that question and then say, "Oh, well the answer is this." It kind of sucks. It really does suck. And
Yeah.
I'm coming more around on that like every single day that we get more The Last of Us content. But that aside, um other things from this episode, I thought that the bit of Ellie washing ashore on the Seraphite Island right when the WLF was attacking them was pretty unnecessary. I don't really see what the point of
It was
that
completely
was.
unnecessary. It's pointless.
It,
The point
Yeah.
of it was that Neil Druckmann wanted to point out how smart he was because I guarantee in season 3 that was Abby's boat, and they're going to come out and it's not going to be there, and they'll be like, "Oh, look how good of a writer I am,"
Okay.
Um, for me,
which is not like, yeah,
the only thing I extracted from that scene, which it was pointless, a lot of these scenes are like tacked in to like make a point to something that happened earlier, but the scene itself really isn't necessary. Is that
Mhm.
she was ready to like save a kid, and then there's this kid who's like seemingly ready to like approve her getting gutted, who's way younger than the kid that she was trying to save, and so like
Yeah.
maybe there was some like, oh, maybe these people aren't good kind of feeling. That's the only thing that I was like, okay, maybe that's why they threw this in. But I agree with you that there was no
I mean,
payout.
it doesn't really serve to adjust Ellie's moral compass whatsoever. It only serves to adjust the audience's. But wasn't a Seraphite shooting Dina in the leg with an arrow enough for us to know that the Seraphites aren't totally like worth defending as well?
Sort of, unless you
it's
assume that like they thought she was WLF, which would be understandable to like shoot first. But
I guess, but they're
it's
in the
worth noting. It's worth noting that apparently, and in one of the interviews, like post show, after the credits or during the credits or whatever it is, I didn't watch it, but I
yeah,
heard that what's her name, Haley Grossman is her name,
Haley Gross.
the who was Haley Gross,
Yeah,
Neil's second on the game, and she's also writing on here. She's credited. Apparently, having or Ellie go to the Scar Island was something they wanted to do in the game, but ended up getting
yeah,
cut. So it
yeah.
might just be here because they thought it was a good idea and forgot why it was cut in the first place.
mm, that would suck even worse. I like
It
my
was.
idea a little more.
I mean, your idea makes more sense. It just doesn't really click, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's just it served very little purpose. Like I said, it doesn't adjust Ellie's character whatsoever. It just I guess it's just there to serve to adjust the audience expectations or the audience perception of this group of people, and I feel like we didn't really need that adjustment, you know? We didn't really need that change in perception.
Not at all. No.
And it's hard. It's
And
hard
remember
a
how
little bit.
excited I was. Sorry,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Jason.
I was just gonna say, remember how excited I was in the first few episodes when it looked like we might get a deeper delve into the WLF and the Seraphites?
Well,
Yeah.
I think we
How
might.
wrong I was.
I think we might,
No,
just not until season 3.
you can't like Isaac as well as good as he was depicted by the actor, and those scenes. ultimately that was a subplot that should have been cut from this season because it went nowhere and was clearly just there to start setting up a plot for season 2. Now that everything's said and done,
Yeah,
you
I
can't
guess
open a subplot and not have some form of closure in the same season.
I guess the goal was like, the cat's out of the bag. Like Delilah said it up front, but the end of the season kind of showed audiences what to expect. The next season is going to be all from Abby's perspective over the 3 days in Seattle.
Except you guys gotta wait months for it, or years.
Months, yeah, try
We got to
years.
play Abby's like right away.
Right, and like
I
obviously we're
can't
not
imagine.
gonna.
People are gonna drop off probably.
Oh, people already have, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, with the well, we won't spoil like what Abby's 3 days are like and why they're worth or not worth taking a peek at. Um but yeah, the next season is going to focus on Abby. So I guess the goal was to still have the central focus in this season be on Ellie, but it doesn't mean that they can't also show us the what's going on in other corners that don't relate directly to Abby, which is why we got those Isaac scenes. But yeah, overall, we just got a few peeks at Isaac here and there, and it is mostly just set up for the next season. It the pieces will fit in somewhere, but what's the point of introducing them in the first place? What purpose do they serve to further Ellie's journey at the time at this moment in time? They don't. They really don't.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, it like him going over, where's Abby? She's been missing. She's supposed to be my successor. That whole
Oh god,
scene. It's
that
like
scene, I can't believe they wasted time in that scene having the second in command assume that Isaac was like was sleeping with Abby.
Oh god, that
It's like,
was so
really?
weird.
I
It's like you have Isaac who is actually set up as like a competent, smart, scary leader,
yeah.
and then this one was like, "Oh, what are you banging her?" It's like, really? Is that where the writers' minds go?
Yeah.
Like
I did.
to put this,
I didn't really have an issue with that. I thought it was just a throwaway,
it's just
whatever.
so out of place given that what Isaac is saying is so like poignant. Like, I don't remember what the one friend of Abby's is, the Hispanic one.
Manny.
Manny, yes, thank you. He says like we have 1,000 Mannies, we only have one Abby, which pretty poignant thing. Like she's valuable for her skills and potential to be the leader. Like that's, and yet like apparently the second in command assumes that they're bumping uglies. It's just weird.
Yeah, it is weird. It's not so. I mean, I get stuff like that happens, especially in a world. I mean, stuff like this happens in a normal world, and of course, it would happen in a post-apocalyptic world. But it again, it served no purpose. It's just like you said, it was weird. It I don't understand. I don't. I wonder if they're trying to paint something for the future, but for now, it was just like, do we have to go there?
I get that perspective. I just think it was a throwaway, like to move the dialogue along. I don't think it was anything worth. I'm ambivalent toward it, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Yeah,
Um
I mean, that's fair. And also,
it's a
like, it
big
just didn't need to
accusation to
be
make.
here. That scene entirely, like we just said of the other Isaac scenes, it didn't, and
that
Starfight scenes,
that's
it didn't need to be here. That
that's
sounds
the
like
bigger
something.
problem.
Yeah, it sounds like that's something Isaac would have said about Abby towards the end of Abby's season. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what he actually thinks of her, and that's why she's so important.
Yeah,
yeah,
I think that's the bigger issue. Is why here that should have been saved for next season
yeah,
because it's the focus on Abby.
yeah.
Um let's talk about I guess the aquarium. Um what the whole save the baby thing was pretty new. I mean, she didn't, but that I feel like that kind of gave a little more gravity to that scene.
It did. Yeah, that's true. I was skeeved out. I was like, "Oh my god, is this gonna happen?" Like,
Yeah. Well, I actually thought they were going for a major change because I thought she was going to do it. She was going to save the baby and then she was going to have to
it's gonna be a
try
dad
to
right
try
away.
huh?
She was gonna be a dad right away by saving the
I
baby.
thought I thought she was gonna have to. That would be an interesting change. I thought, right? Like in the moment, oh my god, she killed this woman and she's saving her baby. And if the baby lives, like, is she gonna raise the child of a woman that she killed, trying to get revenge against the person that killed her, like surrogate father? That would be an interesting fucking change. It would be a little weird, but like, it would be interesting. It would be new, and it would be like, oh my god, it's like continuing this cycle of like killing someone and then or raising this child. I don't know. It would be interesting.
Mhm.
What do you guys think about? I mean, they didn't go in that direction, obviously. That she didn't do it, but like, do you guys think that would have been a good change? Do you think it would have been better? What do you
No.
think? Okay, good talk.
Yeah, the feeling I got going into that scene was that they were going to make a major change as well. I thought they were going to have it so that Ellie doesn't kill them at all. Um, Given the trajectory of her in the episode, where by the end she is come to terms with, okay, Abby's not getting killed, and we're going home.
Hmm.
Um, I thought that maybe when Jesse and Tommy caught up, there might just be an accidental altercation that maybe leads to Owen's death, and maybe the pregnant one gets. Regardless, I thought it was going to the way it was set up, because ultimately Ellie kills them in self defense. The whole scene, like from the outset, if you think about it from somebody who hasn't played the games, it's pretty dumb because a new viewer has no idea the context of Owen and Mel's conversation, and even from like just a gameplay
Well,
perspective, like what
we
Owen
didn't
ends up
in
doing.
we didn't in the game either, because that we don't hear like that full conversation until the end of or
The
yeah.
end of the entire game.
Well, we don't really know. Well, we know more about it in Abby's side of the story, without, and we won't get into why. But like,
No, no, no. I understand what you're saying, but the phrasing is somewhat different when Mel. I don't believe in the game. You hear Mel explicitly say, "No, I don't want to go with Abby."
no,
You
you
hear it.
do.
I believe it's unless it's muffled, because I believe it is muffled. You're in like the room with the killing the dog, and then it kind of everything happens really fast. Like Ellie stabs Mel,
I mean, as
and
game
Owen.
players, we know exactly why she says that. Again, we won't go into it, but like,
Yeah,
like I'm pretty sure that that story is going in the same direction it did in
my
the
whole
game.
regardless, my whole point was that if you're not a game player, then you have no idea what that conversation is.
But you
And on
don't
top
really
of
in the
that,
game at that point either.
and regardless of the motivations, just what Owen does is just fucking stupid. He's got a gun trained on him, and he goes and reaches underneath the thing for a gun without any cover. It just the whole mechanics of the scene are just fucking stupid.
I mean,
And ultimately, it ends up Ellie kills them essentially in self defense.
yeah, it doesn't make it any. I mean, it doesn't make it any less fucked up that she killed a pregnant woman, you
Oh no
know?
no 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 no! I get that. I'm just saying the purpose of the scene is fundamentally changed, and for what they were going for, I guess it doesn't really make sense why you would do that.
Oh, I don't think.
If you're
How
trying to
is
get Ellie to a point where she's okay going home and understands that she's not, she
well,
doesn't need this quest for vengeance.
how is the purpose of the scene changed? I feel like it's exactly the same.
Because in the game, Ellie just stabs them brutally. It's not self
No.
defense.
No, I'm pretty sure it is.
Owen fights. No, no. Owen does fight back in the game, but it's only after she like goes straight in with a knife.
Delilah, be the
I
judge
don't
on that.
I don't remember. I would have to check real
Oh
quick.
no.
Do
Oh
It's
do
no.
I
not
can
as.
take a minute to check.
It,
I Yeah.
I might be wrong, but I do know that the scene in the game is much more chaotic. Like
Mhm.
she doesn't mean stab to stab Mel. Does come after her. But here it's
Yeah.
clear cut. Ellie has a gun trained on them, and Owen does something really fucking stupid to try to shoot her when Ellie has all the time in the world to fucking take him out.
Yeah.
So no, she does. She has a gun on Owen. She does the whole map thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know
She
that.
points the gun at Mel. That's when Owen freaks out, tries
Yes,
to grab the
yes,
gun from her, and she
yes,
does shoot him. She shoots him.
yes. But it's kind of by accident because he's attacking her, and then Mel comes
Well,
at her and she stabs her in self defense. Yeah. Here, all the point I'm
no,
simply trying to make.
it's not by accident. It's very deliberate. And then
Yeah,
Mel
because
tries
he
to stab
grabs
her with a
he.
knife.
Yeah, no, no, I know. What I'm saying is that the mechanics of the scene are much different. It's much more
Yeah, I
intimate
just
and up
rewatched the
close.
scene.
Yeah, so did I.
It's
Okay,
not
cool.
Ellie. It's not Ellie several like a distance away with the gun clearly trained on them, and Owen thinks that he's fast enough to be able to reach under the table and pull out a pistol. Is the
Yeah.
point I'm making?
So, okay. The optics of the show scene are definitely worse, but it is still essentially the same thing where Ellie uh kills both of them in self-defense.
Sure.
It's self-defense in both situations, but the show's version of it is a lot less sensical.
Fair enough. I
Um,
misremembered exactly how that scene played out, but
yeah.
the point of the mechanic still remains. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it also, like, Ellie doesn't realize that Mel is pregnant until after she's already killed her. Here, I don't know. I like where they were going. I like where they were going with this whole Mel exchange, where like Mel didn't attack her. Mel just wanted her to try and save the baby, and I almost think it would have been more interesting if she did and then decided that she was going to have to try and keep this baby alive. It just would have been different, and that would have been more interesting to me, because instead we're just going to go down the same fucking story we've already seen and we already know is extremely controversial.
Yeah,
You
I
know
mean,
what I mean?
if she did that, she would have had to stop going after Abby, which would then like defeat the entire purpose of
Yeah, you're just
her
throwing on another
quest.
Yeah,
plot
but
element
like
that's unnecessary and
I
doesn't really
no,
mean anything.
I think it's a plot element that would have that would have changed the whole narrative, and it just would have been more interesting, because now we're just gonna do the same fucking thing that we've already played out and is already like reviled by a lot of
I mean,
people.
I agree with you on that point that they needed to make changes and they made bad changes and ultimately ended up structurally doing the same mistakes as the game. Um,
Right. So
I
my point
actually,
is, if this would have changed everything going forward, I think that could have been a really interesting development.
I will say as a positive to that scene, the actual dialogue from Mel of her asking Ellie to cut it out and trying to instruct her and apply her medical training, it is. I think that's actually a nice touch. That is how a lot of people go out, especially when they're wounded.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Is because you notice how she says like "good job, now cut there." She's basically imagining as she's dying in those
Yeah.
few seconds her
Hmm.
actually cutting out the baby. That sort of thing does happen in like combat and stuff when like you have officers in the military continuing to give orders as they're dying and like pretending as if they're talking, and soldiers as well, and other stuff and trying accidents, people who are on the deathbed. It's just a nice little touch.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I
Yeah,
definitely agree with that.
I think the whole like scene going into the belly, like tight shot of the belly, just overall made it more like visceral and like you said before, Mark, like added more weight to the scene overall, especially considering like Dina's pregnant, and so there's that like parallel too that can
Hmm.
make what Ellie just did. It should make her feel like shit, and it seemed like it did. Like
It did.
of
Yeah.
all the moments, it did. That was definitely a moment where I was like, yeah, she definitely knows that she messed up here. But I just wonder how she's gonna move forward from this again, because that's kind of where it. I don't know. I guess we did see where it moved forward, and she did seem pretty upset about it, right? But we just don't know like how bad she's gonna feel. Like, is it gonna change the trajectory of what she's doing here, or
Right.
is she just gonna brush it off and keep on her mission?
Right.
But I did want to say something
Mhm.
about uh Jesse that I meant to say earlier.
Oh,
And
okay.
that's that there was this one piece of dialogue that didn't work for me, one of his last pieces of dialogue, which is where he basically reconciles with Ellie and says that she would do anything for him, and that's why he came back for her. And I thought that was a little weird considering she was like ready to abandon Tommy, you know, uh, and him, all just to go towards Abby. Um,
I guess
and
it was. Go ahead. Sorry.
I know, like, the implication is that they're friends and they've been through a lot together, and I know from the game I can sort of extrapolate, like, they've been on missions together and they've had each other's back. But, I just thought it was a weird thing to say considering how she doesn't seem like as ride or die as maybe she once was.
He was just trying to be he was taking the high road, you know?
Be the
I think
bigger
he's
man,
just
yeah.
be the bigger man.
Yeah.
Um,
And to be fair, word for word, he's not wrong that she would burn down the world for him. So, yeah, no, I get what you're saying though, Delilah.
well, I do wonder. I mean, again, can't say too much more than what I'll say here, but I wonder if that will continue and pay off in the future. We kind of have one last scene or really two last scenes to really talk about. Let's get into the big one, which is that Abby confrontation. Um, which was again pretty much ripped almost verbatim straight from the game.
Yeah.
In an instance where it didn't bother me as much as it traditionally has when they rip straight from the game
Mhm.
script. But um, do you guys think? I guess this is also talking about this in tandem with the actual final scene of the season. Do you guys think that the season should have ended with that gunshot cut to black?
As
Um,
opposed to having her wake up and whatnot with
As
Manny.
opposed to having that Seattle day one with Abby be the last thing we see.
You kind of need that end bit for people who are not familiar with the games, for the mass audience.
See, I don't agree entirely, but
I
Delilah,
think
what do you think?
the opposite. I feel like if you play the game, seeing that Abby bit pays off because you're like, okay, this is where we are. Whereas if you're not playing the game, I feel like it must be really confusing to be like, wait, what is happening now? Right? Because, you know, for us, it was kind of like, what's happening? What are we playing as this bitch right now? Like, how long? You know, how long is this going to go? Whereas, and we got to continue playing. Whereas here, it's like we're waiting months. And if you're not someone who played the game, you must be like, where they're going with this. You know, I
Wait,
know it says day one explicitly,
yeah.
but I don't know if everyone's making that connection who hasn't played the game.
So you're saying you think that it should have ended with the cut the black
I
gunshot?
for as from a gamer's perspective, no. From a
Okay.
gamer's perspective, I think showing the Abbey scene and showing their, you know, their whole settlement works for me from a gaming perspective, but putting myself in the shoes of someone who didn't play the game, I think ending from the gunshot would have been better and less confusing. But again, I'm not in that perspective to really say. I just am trying to put myself in those shoes, and I feel like it's more confusing seeing Abby's settlement.
So, and I'm coming from the position, and I think I talked about this in the last episode we did on episodes 5 and 6. I don't like these short little scenes they've been putting at the end of the last 3 episodes of this season, like season 5 or episode 5. Um, that they end that episode after she tortures Nora. They have a little flashback of her waking up in Joel's house, and then credits. It's like
Yeah.
that was unnecessary. Why did you put that there? And then they did the same thing with episode 6, where it was a flashback only episode where it's just Ellie and Joel and showing the preceding 6 years after the first season, and they end that episode with her going back to the theater in present day. And I'm like, again, why? What's the point of that? And
Because
so they
Neil
do this,
Druckmann thinks it's artsy.
but they do that with this.
I'm telling you, that's the exact reason.
They do that with this finale too, where it serves a better purpose, admittedly. Like, it does serve a purpose it is a better cliffhanger than either of those last two examples that I just said. It shows that the next season definitively is going to show Abby's journey over those 3 days. And I get that, but I still think, dramatically speaking, it would have been a more interesting, a more poignant cliffhanger to have that gunshot fade to black, credits, because obviously that's a cliffhanger right there. And if audiences already know the show's renewed for a third season, they know, oh, there's more to this story. And
Mhm.
gamers know because we played the game. But audiences, I think, can still there could still be that surprise that the next season is going to be Abby over those 3 days. And probably before the end of the season, it will come back to that scene and show what happens after that before a potential fourth season. I don't know if it's going to keep going past that. My prediction is probably not.
Yeah.
Or at least with adapting The Last of Us Part 2, right? Like they talked about they're open to continuing the show past adapting Part 2 and I guess telling further Last of Us stories, further Ellie stories in the show that won't make it to game, but we'll see if that happens. We'll talk a bit about that, but that's kind of my thoughts on how this season, how this episode should have ended. I think the whole Abby scene was pointless. And the other cliffhanger would have been better, but that's just me.
Yeah, structurally I agree with you. There's a lot of things that they do throughout the show, like having these little snippets of scenes to make a point later on without it really having any weight or relevance in the moment that it's shown. And then ending on these like it feels like fabricated cliffhangers. It's not even like a compelling thing. It's like, okay, let's throw this in because we know it's going to be in the next episode and we want people to start talking and thinking. Whereas I feel like a proper cliffhanger, it ends conclusively, but also like something else is gonna happen, which I think the gunshot would have been.
And for the most part, but for those two other examples I brought up, like after you finish watching the credits, it shows you a preview of the next episode anyway. So it's like you didn't need that scene of Ellie waking up in Joel's house to know that the next episode was going to be a flashback episode, because if you just watch for another 30 seconds, you get that preview that tells you, oh, this is what the next episode's going to be like. And it's the same thing with the other example, right? Like it to me, it just doesn't make sense to do something like that. And
I think it's just them.
I think it's artsier to remove them if you ask me personally, but
well, to remove that last one, because that last one is just there so that
no, I think
mass
it's artsier to
audiences
remove
know.
any of those pointless little scenes at the end of episodes. I think it's artsier to remove them outright.
I mean, yeah, probably it's probably better for the show and the episodes.
But what do I know
just
about
think,
art?
I just think, having all the episodes, all the flashbacks, I'm sorry, in one episode, as I said in our previous discussion, already ground the pacing of the show to a halt, in terms of plot momentum. And then having this, which famously in the game is one of the most criticized elements because this switcheroo, time back, whatever you want to call it, rewind in time, was criticized for grinding the pace to a halt. So having two things that ground the pace to the halt back to back, and this structure of storytelling didn't work for the game, but at least you had gameplay. Here you just got show. Just terrible decisions all around in terms of macro, and I don't know if you want to segue that into just a discussion of the season as a whole.
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, unless there's anything like more pointed toward this finale that you guys want to talk about.
I mean, I got lots of nitpicks of details, but I've learned to just let them go. Yeah,
I think we could just move on then,
because they're honestly not worth talking about. You could go hours on any given episode in this season talking about all the minor details that are fucked.
Yeah. I mean, I think just overall, like this was a story structure that, take it or leave it, hate it or love it, worked better for a game. And it was designed for a game, like to have that retroactive guilt. And yes, I do agree that in the game, like playing as Abby did mess with the pacing. Whereas here, I don't know how it's going to feel because they're probably going to truncate a lot of that because I think a lot of the Abby sections in the games were super long, like gameplay wise.
They truncated a lot of Ellie's stuff too. So.
Yeah. But I will say, something that is, I guess, not a spoiler because we would have seen it at this point, right? Is no dogs were killed.
Yeah, that definitely seemed like a notable choice. That I'm not gonna fault them for that. Like a lot of people complained about that in the game. That you could kill a lot of the dogs.
We can have Scar PPs out, but we can't kill dogs. That's a step too far for the audience.
That's HBO, baby. We gotta have some peen.
No, I know it's.
I'm surprised I don't even think we
HBO's
got a
had penises out
single. I don't
before.
think we got a single titty, man. That's a problem for HBO. We gotta go back.
Oh, don't worry, they'll. Let me not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. um look, I don't want to see a dog die. I don't want to see a cat die. And I think from like a video game perspective, that retroactive active guilt where you kill the dog as Ellie and it's just like an enemy dog, right? That you're just is in your way.
Yeah.
And then having to realize that it's like actually a dog that was like really cute and loyal to, Abby's people. I'm only sharing this because it didn't happen and it's not going to happen because we already saw the scene where it would have happened. It only works in a game, right? In a game, I'm like, a dog comes after me, I don't want to kill it, but if it's an aggressive dog, like, I'm just gonna pop it, right? Whereas in a show, like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see a real dog get shot, So I'm kind of glad they removed that.
Oh, we've had worse with dogs in movies. I won't name the movie because I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but we've had some rough scenes with dogs in cinema.
Some rough scenes.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh God, don't take it to that place. No, I mean like tear wrenching scenes with dogs, worse than just killing them.
I just don't know if you noticed the unintentional rough pun. Some rough scenes.
Yeah, I think
rough,
I know where you're going, but
rough.
Oh God,
Jesus Christ!
I was the one who took it to that place. I was the one who took it to that place. Jesus.
God.
It's the state of mind that the show puts it in.
I don't think I even want to know what you were thinking.
I was always more of a wolf.
Okay.
Not a rough, but
not rough. Wolf. Okay.
But you get my point. You guys probably both know what movie I'm talking about, but I don't want to spoil it in case people.
There's only one movie I can
know.
think of, but anyway, let's move on.
Yeah.
What I do want to talk about a little bit is definitely that the kind of news article that made the rounds, if not today, yesterday. This season finale had a 55% decrease in viewership from the first season finale. Which they do HBO did give what I think is a plausible reason for why this would be. This episode aired on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, and also AEW, a pay-per-view for AEW was on, which I watched.
Oh shit! Well, didn't know about that. That definitely contributed. But,
yeah.
Which, like, just to contextualize this, I definitely think that this episode, if it didn't fall on Memorial Day weekend, or if it didn't fall on the more important thing, an AEW pay-per-view, definitely more important there. If it didn't fall on those things, I still think the viewership decrease would have been there, but I don't think it would have been this big. What do you guys kind of think about that?
I mean, from just an anecdotal perspective, I didn't watch it when it aired because of that reason.
Because of AEW, yeah.
AEW and Memorial Day weekend, the whole hoopla of it. But I also think that there must have been a drop off because the show I don't think is as well received as season one.
Like I said, that's
we know there was a drop off the first few episodes.
And that's why I think the decrease still would have been there, but I do think I have a feeling a lot of people are going to misconstrue this 55% decrease as like as a shot entirely at the quality. No, if I had Memorial Day plans with family this year, I usually do. This year I didn't, but if I did, I wouldn't be watching the show because I'd be with my family.
Yeah.
And I think that was the case for a lot of people in the States.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I just
I mean I told you guys
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Finish.
No, I just wanted to call out because I think a lot of people are or definitely will be taking that metric out of context, and I think it's important to note. Like we also saw a drop off. I think on episode 3, and while yes, you could potentially attribute that to Joel dying in episode 2, and a lot of people being like, "All right, I'm done with the show." That was also Easter. It was Easter
Mm.
Sunday. There probably weren't a lot of people watching television at night on Easter Sunday.
Especially a show like this, right?
Especially a show like this, yeah. Really, like, this is mostly a target at the showrunners and producers deciding to air this show on these times on these holiday weekends where maybe if they had considered skipping a week, they might have had better viewership.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I already mentioned to you guys. I don't remember if I mentioned it on any of our discussions here. Um, before this season aired, my family, my parents, siblings, spouses, all normies, had been talking about how they watched the first season and the second one was coming up, and I kind of kept my tongue. I didn't really say much.
hmm.
My parents were out within the first two episodes, and my siblings also, like basically my entire family dropped. Who are normies and kind of give me a slice view of that world. They were all out within the first few episodes,
Aw.
and we did see drop offs in numbers very early in the season. So
Like I said, I
honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that 55 number is even lowballing it.
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised.
yeah, well, like I said, I think that it would have had a drop off anyway, but I think that two episodes where we saw massive drop offs, they happened at very inopportune times for anyone to be tuning in and watching TV. So I think that helps to contextualize the drastic drop off. I think either way there would have been one for sure
Yeah.
because of everything we've discussed in the past 4 episodes of this fucking show. Um, so
Yeah.
that's I mean, is there anything else you guys want to talk about with this season, with this finale, with the show in general?
I'm sorry I had you guys watch this.
I
It
I
was
was I was gonna watch it either way. I just didn't realize it was sneaking up on us that, you know. It kind of just
yeah.
came out of nowhere for
And
me.
I am kind of like all in for season 3 simply because I really like Caitlin Dever's performance as Abby, but really that's the only reason. And because I won't be having to deal with Bella Ramsey's version of Ellie, which again, it's not just her performance, it's also the writing. Some of the writing is just like, what the heck is happening? Um, but yeah, that's
No, it's
my
entirely
bad.
the writing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that, yeah.
I mean it's a combination of her writing and, like, as we discussed on our last discussion, they should have recast. She doesn't look like a 19-year-old. She doesn't look like a grown-up Ellie. And then combined with, as Delilah said, they wrote her as if she was still a 14-year-old when there was a 5-year, or supposed to be a 5-year time jump.
Well, maybe in 2 years they will improve it. I don't know.
Yeah,
uh,
poor girl is getting bullied for the wrong reasons.
yeah, well, I think
Yeah,
that's
and that's
always
not
a
fair at all. Yeah.
that's always a problem is no one should be no actor should be taking flack for their portrayal of a character because they're not writing the character. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with Laura Bailey when she portrayed Abby in the game. She got a lot
Mhm.
of really really fucked up abuse.
Yeah,
Um to the point where like her child was being threatened, which is
crazy. People are crazy.
unacceptable shit. Completely unacceptable. So none of these actors should be taking any flack for this. And frankly,
Yeah, it's just a job for them.
and frankly, neither should the writers that are writing things that maybe we don't like. It's just a matter of, okay, if it's not your taste, just log off and walk away. You don't have to stay
Well,
online and start throwing vitriol at people just because you don't
that's
like it.
true. That's true. And like any criticism I share is because I love this franchise so much. Like The Last of Us was my favorite game up until Elden Ring came out. And I really liked The Last of Us Part 2 as well,
Yeah.
despite me understanding the criticisms. And so like I criticize this coming from a place of love. Like I don't need this series to be, it's a little sullied now, you know. I even have some bad grace with it now because of the show, and I have to learn myself how to separate the two because they're two different products. But it just kind of sucks, you know. You wanna see like something that you really love shine in every way possible, And a lot of other franchises suffer from this: Star Wars, Marvel, blah blah blah. There's always like bad things within those franchises, but this season 2 just really just has me, I don't know, not happy with The Last of Us, period. Yeah, so I just, it sucks that I wasn't a big fan of season 2. I'm hoping season 3 is good. I feel like it will be if Caitlin Denver continues to perform in the way she has been in the little snippets we got of her in season 2. But I am a little worried about, I've said this in another episode, the intergalactic game
Oh
because
yeah.
Neil Druckmann seems to be on some shit.
Yeah. Just to continue or add on to what you're saying about criticism, there's a difference between ad hominem going after people and attacking versus like actually providing genuine criticism. And Neil Druckmann and that creative team desperately need genuine criticism because he's threatening to go down the Kojima huffing your own farts in a hotbox road.
Yeah, but
If he hasn't already gone down it,
he definitely has. The thing I'll
because he
always
has
say
done good work in
though,
the past, but yeah,
the thing I'll always say though is with regards to that exact comparison. And if you're a non-gamer, excuse us. We're all gamers. We're going to be talking. We're going to be talking game stuff, like more than maybe we have in the past several episodes talking about a television show. Um, Kojima has earned it. He has earned his right to huff his own farts, and he has earned his right to go batshit insane with some of his plots because he created and kept going this like enormous and phenomenal franchise where when he kind of went a little off the rails and did some wacky shit even with that franchise, like he, it still worked and still had some sort of meaning and still like just meant something. So he's kind of earned that reputation. He's kind of earned his right to be that way today. You know, we'll see how Death Stranding 2 on the beach pans out.
Mm.
Because I'm sure we'll talk about that at some point. Um,
go
I
watch
don't,
our episode on Death Stranding 1 to figure out what I feel about that. Yeah,
I don't think that Neil Druckmann has earned his
I feel that. Yeah,
fart huffing rights.
especially when you go back as recent as Neil Druckmann gave several I don't know what you would call them, seminars, talks at GDC, like
Uh-huh.
in what was it, like 2015, 2016, shortly after the original game came out and blew up, and he gave talks about writing. And this isn't even speculation. He says it verbatim that guys like Bruce Straley played major roles in shaping what the final story was. His original drafts were very different.
Mm.
And so it makes you wonder what that second game would have been if he had somebody either with him or over him to curtail his
Well, he did have
tendencies like
someone
he
with
did.
him. He did have someone with him. It was Howie
Somebody with
Rose.
somebody with actual power to curtail, because Bruce Straley was in charge of Last of Us 1. If people tend to forget,
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
But not Jason. Jason will never forget, and he'll never let
nor
us
will I
forget.
forget Amy Hennig or any of those folks
Oh well,
that seem to have been
who
once
could
Neil
ever
Druckmann,
forget Amy Hennig?
as happens with all like big media endeavors like this. Same way people believe Kevin Feige was the mastermind of the MCU. No, it only became that once he became the head of the entire division.
Mm-hmm.
People forget the actual creatives that molded things.
Hey,
Yeah.
on one other just final note I want to talk about, not really related to this show, but since since you brought up that The Last of Us was your favorite game up until Elden Ring came out, how do you
Oh
feel about
God.
the Elden Ring Alex Garland news with A24?
I'm very nervous about it. I don't know how. I mean, those. If it's just I don't know.
I mean,
Because Elden Ring is all lore. It's not really like.
I
No.
I think Alex Garland is a bit of a weird choice. I'm not
Wait,
sure.
are they making an Elden Ring show?
Alex Garland is set to direct a movie for
Oh,
with A24 for Elden Ring, yeah, an adaptation of Elden Ring.
I did not hear about this at all. So this is just news to me, and I'm kind of like, why?
Yeah, well, why? Because Elden Ring is
Gameplay
hugely
is
successful.
gameplay. I mean, yes, I'm just saying, like, you
I
know what I'm
know,
saying.
I know.
Gameplay is the storytelling of those games. I mean, yes, like
I
Delilah said, they have lore, but
I think Alex Garland is a little bit of a strange pick. Alex Garland directed Ex Machina, Annihilation, Men, and Civil War.
Hmm.
Um, and he's also uh, I don't think Warfare is out yet, but he's also directing that.
Yeah, no, I'm not happy about it, but if it's good, I'll be happy. If it's bad, I'll I'll be angry. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just strange. I tend to like anything A24 distributes and produces, so I'll be looking at it with an open mind, but it's definitely a strange choice.
I'd rather if it comes out, I'd rather it be like either so good that it's, obviously good, or so bad that it's just like don't even pay attention to it. Like the Dragon Ball movie. It's like there's certain things that you're like don't even associate that with, the original where it came from, where it was inspired from.
What? I thought the
But
Dragon Ball movie was like one of the best movies ever made. It's like a cinematic touchstone.
yeah, okay.
it's uncanny.
Because like with The Last of Us specifically, it was pretty good for the most part, especially season one. So now I'm in this weird area where it's like, damn, like it's just falling off, which is almost worse than it just being bad. Because if it was just bad, episode one, just like I did with the Yakuza show, I would have just been like, I forget it. I'm not even gonna watch it. Or the Halo show, I'm not even gonna watch it. And that way I could just keep it where it's just the game in my head and not this crap.
Yeah.
y'all are going through what I went through with the second game, and I've been through the 5 stages with that. I just don't consider the second game part of it because of the first game.
Wow.
Come to terms with it, because that's where you'll
Yeah.
end up.
I
Yeah.
mean, I think to ignore it is just like I don't know. I guess if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. I
Well, it's
think that
easier
it
to do for a show than a game, like
yeah,
a sequel to a game.
yeah,
And hey, they always had the opportunity to make the second show or second season its own thing.
Yeah.
true. Definitely true.
Yeah.
All right, well,
I'm
I mean,
actually curious what people thought of this format, like the talking about it not all at once, because we did talk about season one
oh,
after.
about our like our release structure for the show or
Yeah, exactly.
well,
There is an awesome thing called comments and likes, or
and
dislikes if you didn't like,
if
but
you
preferably likes.
and if you watched this episode on YouTube, thank you so much. Delilah wants to know what you thought of this release structure of how we felt about The Last of Us season 2 available from HBO Max. So, if you want to leave us a comment and tell us what you thought of the show, this episode, or this release structure of us putting out more frequent, shorter episodes covering something, let us know in the comments. Tell us what you liked about that, if you liked it, if you want to see more of that. And also make sure you subscribe to the channel, share the show with your friends, your family, your pets, your kids, maybe not your kids. Uh, that would you think would get something out of this if they watched The Last of Us, if they played the games, if they live and breathe Ellie and Joel, if you wanna share the show with them, please do so. And if you listened on Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. 5 stars preferred, rate and review the show. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. Jason, do you want to give a Kwasnicky rating on this, or do you just want to
The
keep that to
season or the
games?
episode?
The season, because
The
we didn't do it
season.
every episode, so
The
I don't know.
season.
I don't know if you want to do that.
I will give 3 dead German shepherds out of 10.
No.
Wow, jeez, man. We just did a whole thing about how there was no dogs that died in this show, and now you're killing dogs on this show. Damn,
Because it makes it seem even worse. And my advice to
bastard.
everybody is just to go watch Andor.
I'm
I
gonna.
can't believe I'm saying that, but
Wow.
go watch
Wow,
Disney
yeah,
Star Wars.
man. Hey, I mean, You liked Rogue One, right? Rogue One was pretty good.
No.
Oh,
Keep
okay.
in mind that
Never
in the
mind.
EU, there already was that story that got decanonized that everybody loved.
Okay.
Kyle Katarn still lives, everybody.
Lives on in Jason's heart. All right. Well, yeah, go and do all those things that I just said. Jason gave an awful rating for the show. So, hey, next episode gonna be the release of Yakuza Kiwami 2. So if you've been listening along to all of our stuff, that'll be the next episode. Not the next thing we cover though. You'll have to listen to that episode to find that out. But yeah, nothing else. As always, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.